Inclusion talk. My name is Maggie Fernandez. I am the local leader of We Pivot here in Milwaukee.
Woo! Yeah.
So I am about to bring onto the stage Miss Kim Creighton. If you were at the main stage earlier, she needs very little introduction. She is the founder of Cause-a-Scene. She is the chair of We Pivot board. So it is my pleasure to have her here in Milwaukee, and she's going to give us some real talk. So Miss Kim Creighton.
Hello, hello.
Woo!
Good morning. Is it still morning? When I say hello, I need some feedback. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. I'm from the South. We wave and speak to everybody. All right. So we're going to talk about leading for inclusion because, as I said, I am not an inclusion and diversity expert. What I am is a business strategist. But we can't get past this to deal with the real stuff. Because people are like, I don't know how to recruit for diversity. I don't know how to make people feel included. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. Because I'm sick of having these kindergarten conversations about this information. So if you were in the first talk, there's a lot of this. The beginning is going to be repeat. I'm a teacher. I believe in what? Repetition. Yes. All right. So my name is Kim Creighton. My pronouns are she, her. You can follow me on Twitter at KimCreighton1. The website is #Cause-a-Scene. I do business tech coaching. One of my clients is Tito. They are a ticketing platform. They are not direct, but a better product than Eventbrite. And so I'm ready for them to get them together so they can start competing with Eventbrite, which is not a very good platform and not very transparent about how they do fees. It's really, I believe we can create better stuff in our communities. So that's one of my clients. I started #Cause-a-Scene because I'm going to be honest, I was just angry. I just got sick of people inviting me to conferences and asking me to speak about stuff and doing absolutely nothing. It's like, I am not your token Negro. We're going to get to work, we're going to get our hands dirty, or leave me the hell alone. I mean, that's just my thing. So I was like, told friends, like, I want to call being disruptive. And we was like, I'm going to cause a scene. Oh my God, #Cause-a-Scene. And that's how that hashtag got started. Okay, so I have a podcast. There are episodes every Wednesday and Sunday. The Wednesday podcast is an interview format. The Sunday podcast is an anti-racist book club. So right now we're reading How to Be Anti-Racist by Dr. Ibram Kendi. And we will continue to read because, again, this is elementary school. Whiteness has never had to examine itself. So it's never examined white supremacy and racism. So we're going to do this. Ignorance is no longer an excuse to cause harm in 2019. So we're going to be working on that. All right, content warning. Here to make you upset. That's just the bottom line. That's just who I am. I get paid very well to make white people angry. It is what it is. You're going to be okay. All right, let's define some terms. Access, privilege, right? Right? Who was here this morning? Raise your hand. Who's in the other side? Okay, so speaking of you, sir, you missed it. So, privilege is only about access. It is about who gets access to something and their ability to use that access. So, in this picture, if people think, oh, they're going to kill other monkeys. Well, actually, there's a maternal family that gets to get into water and stay warm in the winters in Japan. And then you have these ones that's like begging, please let me in, please let me in. They don't have access to the water, so they're out there freezing. All right. Then we're talking about underrepresented is about numbers. That's all it is. I have 20 gorillas. I have one zebra. The zebra is underrepresented in my little menagerie, right? That's all it is. Nothing to get offended about. Nothing to feel like, that hurts. Nothing. It's so simple. Marginalized. Oh, it is just about groups of people who are mistreated. We're talking about groups of people that the system mistreats. So, as I say, white women are underrepresented in tech, but unless they have another marginalization, they are also not marginalized, so they are not diversity in tech. Variety. Simple word, variety. Diversity is about variety. 4 crayons, box, ugly picture, 4 colors. 64 box, very colorful, ugly picture. That's all that is. You know, I get to be way more colorful. And then, also you get the sharpener in the back of the 64 box. That was cool. You know, I was just like, don't mess up, I'm sharpening. You know, so you get a lot more with the 64 box. Inclusion is about my lived experience. You don't get to challenge, you don't get to question. It is my lived experience because who lived it? Me. There's a tweet that I did at some ungodly hour this morning when I should have been, when I was supposed to be working on my talk. And it was this picture of this white dude standing in the door of this black dude's apartment, and he's yammering on, and the black dude is just like, I just can't take it. He's just like, poosh, pushes him, and he falls backwards and slams his door. And I wrote as my caption, this is how I feel about white feminism in tech. And it's like, get out of my face. You know, I'm just done with this. All right, inclusion is not about equality. It is not about treating marginalized individuals the same. You will never treat us the same. There is no equality in this. It is strategic discrimination against, people don't want to call it what it is. It's strategic discrimination against privileged individuals if you want real diversity. No longer looking, when you have a job opening, going to your frat house, your Masons club. It's saying we're gonna discriminate against them. We're not going there. We're gonna go to this group that we've created and built a relationship with. They trust us. Now you understand? Do you hear those two things? They have to come first because these people don't trust you. Because they're used to you treating them like crap. So you have to build the relationships so that they trust you and then they can come over. All right? Because that one white dude that you didn't pick up at the Mason, he'll get a job. He's going to be fine. It's these over here who never get the opportunity that we need to make space for. It's not about quotas. It's not about I have 2 Latinx, 1 non-binary, trans individual. I have 3 black people, 1 from Cuba. It's not about counting them. Because again, you're not seeing us as people. You're just seeing us as these things to check off a box. It is about my experience. You don't get to tell me if your environment is inclusive. I tell you, do I feel included in your environment or not? All right. The biggest organizational challenges of the 21st century. Products and services are not businesses, people. Woo, y'all get on my nerves with this. Product and service is not a business. It is a product or service that if you're lucky, you've been able to scale. The lean model canvas is not how you build a business. It is how you iterate a product or service. Now, I know most business plans in 2019, well, I don't think even before 2000, they don't make sense. Because you had to do a whole bunch of guessing in lines, particularly in the financial part of the whole business plan. And because we iterate so much, things change. We have to be flexible. But there's still things that are about how to structure a business that are valid. That I would tell you that 85% of the businesses in tech, particularly startups, if you're talking about startups, none of them they are a product or service. They are not a business. They are an organization. And I'm very particular about again, I'm an educator, so I'm very specific about the words I use. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. So these slides have a lot of words in them, so I'm just going to take my time and go through them so that people can understand what I'm talking about, because this is important content because it talks about why we're here. So all too often, organizations fail, cannot scale, or become toxic because their leaders don't understand that growth requires processes that enable connectedness, innovation, and competitive advantage. That's what a business is. It is in the business to make even nonprofits, they need to do something to maybe keep the lights on. There's a reason for this thing. We are no longer making widgets, people, and we're still running our businesses as if we are. In the industrial age, it didn't matter who you hired, because you gave them a manual, because every widget had to be exactly the same. It was a universal widget. It fit into 1,000 different things. This is an information economy. You need to figure out a way to get the knowledge that's in my head, outside of my head, so that I can give it to organizational leaders so that they can scale it so that we can innovate, differentiate, and become competitive. This is why I don't talk about inclusion and diversity as separate entities, as these departments. Your business needs to be rooted in inclusion and diversity because it's the only way this happens. Because for me to get this out of my head and be willing to share with you, I must trust you. If not, you hired me and I'm not going to tell you anything. And I'm going to tell you what black women do. We go into your organizations. We're treated like crap. We get to know everybody. We know the secretaries. We know everybody in HR. We know everybody in design. We know your business better than you do. At some point, we're just done with you. We leave. Stuff starts falling apart. And some leader, Chad, says, what is going on? Well, Rebecca left. We don't know what to do. Now, mind you, because we always have to cover our asses, she has documented everything. Emails, everything. She created a manual for herself. She's taking that with her. She ain't leaving you nothing behind. She knows to come in and be your competition. If you did not know, black women are the largest number of entrepreneurs in this country because we're tired of working for other people. So, I was, until last year, pursuing a Doctor's of Business Administration, Technology, Entrepreneurship. I was doing my research, I finished my coursework, and I was doing research on using mentoring as a strategy for expanding organization or sharing organizational knowledge. My philosophy on how I do my work is rooted in what's called a learning organization. So it's not organizational learning, it is a learning organization. It is an organization that, at its core, is about tacit knowledge. Explicit knowledge is the stuff you can put in a binder. That's not what we're concerned about. Anybody can do that. It is how we take tacit knowledge, get it in a form that it can be shared and scaled. That takes a system. That's where we're making mistakes. We're thinking in silos. Oh, I have a great team. You don't have a great team if your manager leaves. Then your team is just like everybody else. We need to stop thinking in silos and thinking in systems. And I'm saying that because if I eat something that I'm allergic to, does it just hurt my tongue and my throat? Or does it impact my whole system? We need to think about systems. So this is the book this is the research, this is the theory that I rooted my research in. So, Peter says this: the cause of many problems lay in the very well-intentioned policies designed to alleviate them. Because you're thinking about silos and not thinking about systems. You're thinking about this and not thinking about how that thing is going to impact that thing over there. Businesses and other human endeavors are systems. They too are bound by invisible fabrics of interrelated actions, which often take years to fully play out in their effects on each other. Facebook, GitHub, that's on the tip of my, NPM, Twitter. We have WeWorks. We have these things, but because these are businesses. Uber is not a business to me. They've never figured out a business model that's profitable. If there's an article that I read, if you're interested in it, DM me and I'll send it to you. Literally, Uber's model was marketing and how to disrupt this. They've never solved the problem that taxi cabs have had since taxi cabs have been around. So, Uber is a large product and service, and they're banking on autonomous cars. But until then, they're causing a lot of harm. Since we're part of since we are part of that lacework ourselves, it's doubly hard for us to see whole patterns of change. This is why I come into spaces. This is why I do the work that I do. Because I come in with a pair of eyes that I say to my clients who don't have job descriptions. They have people, they don't have job descriptions. I need you to create these job descriptions regardless of who's in those positions. Because based on these job descriptions, these people may not be in those positions. They might move to other positions, or they may have to leave out of this company. So I come in and I can be that person who just, let's look at this. Objectively, if someone wants a title, why do they need this title? Is this title, you can give me a good reason why this title is needed, then we can have a discussion. If it's for vanity, why are we doing this? Because it's not about the title, it's about the business. That tells me you have an organization and not a business. Instead, we tend to focus on snapshots of isolated parts of systems and wonder why our deepest problems never get solved. The other organization I was thinking about, because everybody has touched, is Stack Overflow. That is just continuously. I'm hoping this new CEO is going to do something, but they've been running for me for the last year. They will not engage with me. And it's because you think about these isolated, just because you have a D&I person, or just because you have this one community thing, it impacts this thing. And this is why I tell developers who want to get, first of all this rock star stuff, y'all need to get rid of this. Developers are commodities. So you can get mad at me if you want to. You're nothing but a commodity. If you do not understand how that business functions and makes decisions about your code that helps me with my ROI, which is return on investment, you're somebody I can plug in and plug out. You're a commodity. You add no value. If you don't have people skills, you need to figure out how to get them. Because I will not be replaced by a computer in my lifetime. Coding? DevOps? Most players see their jobs as managing their positions. All they think about is that job. If you're a manager, you think about that team. And it's easy to do because there's so much stuff going on. So you're thinking in isolation of the rest of the team. You're thinking about my team. I hear people all the time about my team this and my team that. Your team is a part of an overall system. What is required to see is the positions, how they interact, how your team interacts with other teams. So if you're on the development team, you need to understand how sales works. And sales need to be able to inform marketing, because marketing needs to understand what to come up with based on what they need for sales. And not just numbers. You need to understand fundamentally as a manager, even as an employee, it would help you do your job better to understand how you don't have to go deep into the weeds, but have an overall understanding of the organization and how it functions. Successful organizations are built on foundations that enable leaders to turn information into knowledge. So let me be clear to you. Information is tacit. That is what's in those explicit. That is what's in binders. That's information. Google is information. Google is not knowledge until they show me something that matters to me that I can do something with. So we have tons of information. But the value is not in information. The value is not in the data. The value is what the data tells you. So, my knowledge is what you want. And again, if I don't feel safe, if I raise my hand and every time I raise my hand, you got to start the comment. You're doing these little comments, these little things. And I love how Dr. Kendi does not call them microaggressions. I don't call them microaggressions anymore. This is abuse. It's psychological abuse. All these little cutting comments, you think it's so funny. We need to stop that. They don't create a safe environment. They don't create a safe environment so that I can help you as an organizational leader make a profit. Build your brand. Scale. None of that. Because every time I open my mouth, you say something smart. I can see the train coming. I'm just like, okay. There you go. And what we, as black women, are going to do, oh shit, there's a train coming. LinkedIn start getting active and all this other stuff is getting active because we about to get up out of here because we see what's about to happen. The ability of organizational leaders to successfully create and organize operations relies heavily on how well they are at developing the necessary processes. A business is an operation. I don't care what you, and I don't like Walmart. Oh my God, I hate going in there. You can say whatever you want to say about Walmart or Amazon. These are logistics companies. It matters not what they put into their hole. Comes whatever season, they can pop out. They are logistics companies. They have processes up the wazoo. Most companies don't need all of that. But you do need to have a process in place of how people get promotions, how people get raises. It can't be some arbitrary thing that you decided one day, oh, let's do this. That is so, you want to take as much subjectivity out of these things as possible. You can't eliminate it because we're biased, we're humans, we're biased. But where you can eliminate subjectivity and make it as objective as possible and transparent, that's what you want to do. That's what you do with processes, procedures, and policies. If you don't have those, you do not have a business. You have an organization that has a product or service. When leaders take the time to understand and operationalize their organization's functions, they avoid the common barriers to success while being able to grow and recover more quickly with unexpected events. Every organization is going to have some kind of risk management issue. If you haven't thought about that, at least the things that are most common to your industry, at least have a plan for that. Everything you can't plan for. So my whole point is, you plan for the things that you can. You create strategies for the things that you can, so that you can have your bandwidth and your emotional labor for the things that come out of nowhere that you got to deal with. So 3 prevailing organizational perspectives for understanding and addressing challenges. 1, there's an event perspective. There's an explanation, and you want to find out who did what. So it's about pointing blame. It's about being very reactive. You want to find fault with somebody. 2 is a pattern of behavior, explanation. Equals seeing the longer term, so you're getting more long-term trends and assessing their implications. It begins to break the grip of short-term reactiveness. But it's responsive, but it's not ideal. The ideal is is a structural explanation. The least common and most powerful. It focuses on answering the question, what causes a pattern of behavior? When I see I can use this example, how I engage on Twitter. And this is how I'm training people who I trust to engage for me on Twitter. I see a tweet. Again, I think about, is this in my industry? If it's not in tech, I could care less about. Usually, unless it's something just stupid. And I feel like playing, feel like doing a cat and mouse thing. But if it's in tech and I want to do a lesson, I figure out how to make this happen. So I think about the patterns of behavior, because what I find when white people engage on Twitter, they see, again, because white people are individuals, they think about this as the one thing, like this individual did this thing. They don't think about this individual did this thing because this thing is a part of a system. And they're allowed to do this thing based on the system that they're benefiting from. So what I do is try to highlight the systems. That's why I'm going to be honest, that's the whole reason I can do this work. Because when I'm looking at systems, as a black person in the United States who's oppressed by these systems, I'm a step back. It's again classroom management. I was never going to let a disruptive student take center stage or center itself in my class, because 1, I'm never going to get that back, because then they know they can disrupt anytime they want to. 2, it communicates to the other people that they're not safe. And I need to prioritize the other people's safety over this person wanting to make an ass out of themselves. So that's how I engage. Anytime you see me engage, please know I'm not angry. I have thought about my whole strategy. I'm usually, like I said, chilling in the tub. I'm sitting on my front porch. One time I was in Germany on a bus tour. I just like, oh, okay, that's nice. I'm not. Because it does not pay me as a black woman to internalize all this as an oppressed person. Do you think about how much therapy I would have to go through if I took on every single last one of these things that I do? No. I engage, and then I disconnect. So that's how I try to teach them when they're saying, I'm like, nope. They're like, oh, don't give it. Stop giving benefit of the doubt. Until someone has proven to you that they're apologizing, whatever, stop doing that. Building a successful organization with fewer unintended consequences requires more than a great product or service. That's just the bottom line. It requires so much more. Because, again, when you're talking about a product or service, it's not Ace Hardware back in the day when you only had to worry about the people in the neighborhood who was going to drive to the Ace Hardware. Those were your customers. We have global customers. We can no longer afford to treat things as if it's the Ace Hardware in the corner. That's how people get harmed. It requires leaders being able to give all stakeholders the experience they want and the ability to manage the process. So when I talk about stakeholders, let me go back. I don't believe only focusing on shareholder value is a thing of industrial age. It is a thing of widgets. We're in a knowledge economy. For there to be a successful business, you need to think of stakeholders, not just shareholders. So your stakeholders are in this order. Your most important stakeholder are those who work for you, those who partner with you, those who buy from you, and those who invest in you. And then we're going to explain to you why it's important in this order. Those who work for you have to understand and internalize your core values. Most companies have not even thought about this. So you have a bunch of people around, folks thinking they know what the core values are, this whole cultural fit crap. That is not a core value. So when you have employees who can walk and talk your core values, well, first of all, let me back up. Your core values help you determine who those employees are going to be. Those employees, when they walk and talk, your core values help you determine who your partners are going to be. Nothing's worse than having a great organization and you partner with somebody or some organization who does not align, and that just messes up everything. Your reputation, everything is screwed up. Those things need to be in place so your employees, who you're going to partner with, they help you build the core value of your customers. Everybody wants to scale out the gate and then come back and deal with this stuff later. I really have a problem with people thinking a COO is something you can slap on once you get to a certain number. A COO should be one of the first positions that you fill, because they're going to help you operationalize all this stuff. They're going to help you turn what is intangible into the tangible things that you need to measure. It is not a job. People also talk about, you want to automate it out. Okay, you try that. Once you have your people who work for you, the people who partner with you, and the people who buy from you, then, I know this, everybody's trying to run for VC money. Then you think about who invests in you, because then it informs you of what kind of investors you need. How many times have we seen companies that invest and then they get kicked out? And we're like, I didn't know that was right, because you knew nothing about that investor. You had nothing to measure that on. All you were going for, you had this silo thinking. You didn't think about how that investor, and that's what happened to MPM. They didn't think about the impact of that investor on their organization. Going from product to service focus to a business model focus takes time, attention, and strategic effort. Let's stop trying to solve complex problems with simple answers. All are necessary in order to innovate, differentiate, and compete in a competitive information economy. So this is a bonus. Building stakeholder rather than shareholder-focused organizations is a proactive approach to addressing inclusion, diversity, and safe space intent. This is what I'm talking about. If you come from a stakeholder perspective, the default is inclusion, diversity, and safe spaces intent. It is not something that you slap on at the end. That's why it don't work, because your core company, your core the business model does not support, fundamentally does not support inclusion and diversity in safe spaces, period. Process for shifting to product and service focused business model. Wait a minute. Process for shifting from product service focused to business focused model. So, step one. This is my own research. This is my thing. You gotta imagine. So it's much easier when I have clients who are like startups who are thinking about an idea. I don't even talk about their product or service at this point. What I do is like, let's imagine. What is your perfect customer experience? If money was no option, if resources were no option, what would that experience be? Don't give me a bullet point. I want you to write a beautiful letter. Like, I want you to get into really excited about what that customer experience will be. Because what we're gonna do is back it up. We're gonna dissect that and make that the thing. It's not an outline project, and I want you to use adjectives here. So we're gonna use we pivot as a example. So you're gonna use that story to define your commitment statement. And we pivot. I'm the chair of the We Pivot board, and we went through this whole process. So We Pivot's commitment statement. We Pivot has a commitment to create truly inclusive spaces where marginalized individuals are empowered through technology and emboldened by the communities around them. And our defined core values are to create the conditions where the most marginalized individuals are included, fulfilled, and empowered, resulting in a more diverse tech industry. So now you need to define what you want to know. What does this experience look like? So you've written your story. So now you're getting closer and closer to the abstract to the tangible. So now you want to talk about what do those indicators look like? What does it look like? So what does that customer look like? What are they doing? So define the indicators that would let you know. You would need to know that the stakeholders are having that ideal experience. So for Repivot, it's accessible. We want it to have a positive reputation. We want membership development. We want leadership development and volunteer development. We want everybody who comes into this space to leave better, more. I don't want to say educated, more fulfilled, more included, more alive than when they showed up. We want to pour into them. Then step 3 is apply. Apply measurements to indicators. We currently are still in this phase because we're working on, we're doing a community assessment. So, but this phase is X by Y. Again, now you're seeing we're taking something that was my old client used to say, squishy. Feelings, these adjectives. You turn these very squishy adjectives into something you can measure. So this is what I want, and I need a percentage of this by this date. Right? That's something we can measure. That's something we can take data on and we can understand. We must be able to reach this benchmark in order to claim success. Sometimes we start fiddling around with this thing. Oh, let's give it 6 more months. Nope, this is the deadline. Because if we don't meet that, then we have another question to ask. This is a step where you develop effective metrics for measuring core values. You're creating a tool to convert intangibles into tangibles. 4 is test. Test the indicators with stakeholders. Collect data, which is facts. That's quantitative data. And the feedback, feelings, reactions is qualitative data. Both are necessary to obtain a rounded and completed picture. So if you've done research, basically this is a mixed method. You can't just use numbers. You want to know not only what those numbers mean, but how they impact, how a decision based on those numbers will impact your customers, your investors, your employees, your partners. 4 is evaluate. Evaluate measures to determine if your benchmarks are met. If they were, why? This is another thing we don't do. When we have successes, we don't operationalize that. Why are we recreating the wheel every single time? It was a success. Why was it a success? Let's write that down. If it was not a success, why was it not a success? Okay, now we're going to do this thing. We're going to iterate this again. Use knowledge gained from evaluations to test and refine the process. This is an iterative process. This is a living thing. It keeps going. And then you standardize. Understanding that it's still a living thing, but you still standardize. So you create formal processes based on the knowledge gained from the evaluations. You document the explicit knowledge, which is the binder stuff, and you share the tacit knowledge, which is the lived experience. And this is where your value is. This is how you differentiate in your organizations. We can all sell shoes. We all have a pair of gym shoes. But each company has decided how they're going to differentiate that based on their customer base or whatever. That's how you get there. Important considerations. Core values should inform all organizational decisions. With my clients, I had a client, one of her core values was beautiful things. So if her core values were beautiful things, she had to think about that every time she drafted an email. Was it beautifully written? If she had a company that customers came in, beautiful things, she needs to think about what kind of toilet paper she uses in the bathroom. That's not my core value. I don't have to think about that. I can just go get whatever I want to. But if that's a part of your core value, it needs to inform every single decision you make. That's why every employee needs to understand it. That's why every partner needs to understand it, because they need to understand